Good day. My name is Glenn O'Kray. I'm active within the Dearborn Historical community, and I'd like to welcome you to this session of Through the Arsenal Gates. Today we have a special guest. You might have done business with him, Tom Clark. He owns the Village Framery and Gallery. He is a real cool guy, and we're going to find out about his story. Tom, tell us about growing up in Dearborn.
Oh, growing up in Dearborn all my life. I mean, I'm 70 now, but I remember,
A young 70.
Yeah,
a young 70.
But I remember just when I was a kid, we all came up on Michigan Avenue. I mean, that's when a lot of the stores were here, and we used to just roam around. Mom let us go in the morning. We come back in the afternoon. I don't know how many times I come into the Commandant's quarters. We all come in, go through the Commandant's quarters, do all the stores. But we always took home something from the Commandant's quarters. It was a map that they used to hand out. It was like an aerial view of all the buildings and everything. I remember taking it home and always had to color it and everything like that. But I haven't seen one of those in years, those little maps.
I wasn't aware of that.
Yeah.
Ah, how cool.
Yeah, and like I say, we used to hang out on Michigan Avenue in all the stores. So, there was Urich's Clock Shop, and then Urich's had the little store. I can't remember what it was called. But anyways, they had the soda fountain in the back, and I remember going into the candy store, and there was always that big barrel of pickles, and nowadays you can't do this, but you used to reach in and grab your pickle and bring it out, put it in a plastic bag, But it was great growing up in Dearborn. We had a good time, If we weren't down here, we were playing in the woods off of Cherry Hill down there, where the big pipe was that came out into the Rouge River and all the pathways, and we'd be hanging around in the woods all the time. So, yeah.
Well, Tom, did you ever get into trouble?
Never got in trouble.
All right.
Maybe I was chased a few times by the police, but never really got in trouble.
You're not in trouble unless they catch you.
That's right. A couple times we should have been in trouble.
Yeah. Now, your mom was caretaker for a famous person. Tell our audience about that.
Before I really knew about it, I was probably a baby back then, but George Papard used to live next door to us. We lived on Reginald. He lived right next door, and his parents both worked, so my mother would have him over, feed him during the day for lunch and dinner, because he used to hang out at our house. But it was before my time, so I can't really remember him. I remember when he passed away. Of course, he's buried right up here in the cemetery. But George and my older brothers knew each other quite well.
Very good.
Yeah.
Tell the audience which schools you attended.
All right. First school was Limburg. I was called a Limburger Cheeser, I guess. And then from there we went to Adams, which was the old Dearborn High right up here. And after that, Dearborn High, graduated in '69. Yeah.
And you went to college?
Well, that's another story. I went to Central Michigan for 1 year. My father passed away, so I came back home. Went to Henry Ford for quite a few years. Got married, started working, and then I started taking night school. Put my wife through Wayne State, and then I went back to Wayne State and graduated in '79 as an interior designer.
So this was a 4-year program you were on?
4-year program. I only needed like 130 or 140 credit hours. I had 280 credit hours by the time I got through college. But I enjoyed it. It was fun.
He wanted to support higher education as much as possible here. Now, you married young. How old were you?
I was 20 years old. My wife was 19.
Okay. How'd that all work out?
Well, we're celebrating our 50th anniversary next week.
Very good.
Well, actually, our anniversary isn't until October 16th, but our party's going to be next week in September.
Oh, very good.
So yeah, 50 years, and I think people ask how do you stay together so long? I think it's because my wife had her own career, I had the business, and we all had our own little things. I think it worked out better that way.
Do you know the secret to a happy marriage?
No. Tell me.
Bad hearing. Bad hearing.
Huh? What?
Tell us about your wife and kids.
Okay, my wife went to college, of course, and became an interior designer. She worked for Hudson's all the way up until she retired from there. Actually, they finally eliminated the design department after so many years, after Marshall Fields and Macy's took over. She went on her own, so she has her own firm now, out of the house, but she's busier now than she was when she was working for Hudson's. We have 2 children. My oldest is Alicia, who's just turned 49 the other day. And then Megan, who's 38. She's taken over the business. I worked the business up for almost 36 years. She's been with me for the last 9 years, and we've actually been in business 38 years. So she's taken over for 2 years now. And things have changed pretty well. I mean, it's working out, Everybody says, when am I going to retire? Why should I retire? I love working. I love seeing my customers, and now I'm seeing the kids of my old customers.
Sure.
So,
yeah.
But it has changed. People are coming in asking for my daughter now instead of asking for me.
Yeah. Tom, what is your philosophy of life?
Philosophy of life. I guess work hard, enjoy yourself, help out people. I think I've helped out, people just in decorating or, doing their house and, preserving their memories and things like that. But yeah, it's, be happy,
Akin to that, what are your values?
My values. Oh, my values are live a good life, have a lot of friendships. That's about it. I mean, enjoy what you're doing in life. I mean, I would have never stayed with my business if I didn't, get up in the morning and wanted to go to work. So I valued my business very much.
Tell our audience how you got into the framing business.
How did I get in the framing business? It was funny. I was just out of college. I decided that, I wanted to open some type of business. And I had worked for a construction company at the time. And one day I decided, I want to be a picture framer. I have no idea what picture framing is, but I think it might be great. I could probably use my college education towards that. So I drove up here right on Monroe Street in a building that used to be was Harb's Hobby Shop years ago. And I looked in a window and there's a guy in there, and I recognized who this guy was, a guy I went to school with. So I went and I says, Roger, what are you doing? He says, I'm opening a frame shop. I said, you got to be kidding me. That's what I want to do. I says, I tell you what, if you ever decide to sell it, I'll buy it. And it was about 3 years after that, he called me up and says, I want to sell the shop. So that's when it started.
Very good.
Yeah.
And out of curiosity, what did you want to do when you were 12 years old? What did you think you'd do for a lifetime career?
I wanted to be a race car driver.
Oh, okay.
That's all I dreamed about is, my dad took me to racing when I fall asleep on the seat next to him. I must have been 3 years old. And we went every year, every Saturday night. We lived down on a beach in Monroe, and we used to go to Toledo and see the races, and I always wanted to be a race car driver. I had go-karts, he built me different go-karts, and I used to drive on the beach all the time. So.
Oh, I love it. Huh.
Yeah. But, I thought about it. I thought about, trying to be a test driver or something for Ford Motor, but we ended up, being a framer.
Sure, yeah. Tell us about some of the jobs you've had along the way.
Well, when I first came as soon as we got married, I worked for an architectural firm, Nordstrom & Sampson, right here in Dearborn. From there, I went to work.
Excuse me for a minute. What did you do for Nordstrom Sampson?
I was, like basically a gopher. Then I became a detailer. I draw. But then I decided that I wanted to get back in the construction business since my family was always doing construction. So I went to work for a large construction company, and I was with, if it was F.H. Martin, if I can't remember, yeah. From there, I went to the company my dad actually worked for, and I was a laborer, ended up becoming a Teamster, and I was with them for, 15 years. And that's when I decided to go on into business myself.
Okay.
So yeah.
You made reference to your dad's work, and your dad was
He was superintendent for R.E. Daly Contract Engineers. Mr. Daly always wanted to own part of the company, and he says, no, just promise me a job for the rest of his life, and that's what he did. But one of his first jobs was right here in Dearborn. He built the Episcopal Church on, that's Military and Cherry Hill. And Mr. Daly actually lived on Long Boulevard.
Yeah.
And he would call my dad up and say, Bill, I want you to fire that guy that's over there in the corner. He says, what are you talking about? Well, he's not doing anything. He's just standing around. You know, when you have the boss that was living right across the street, you never thought about that. But yeah, that's what he used to do. And then I followed my father around during the summers. We'd be out of town, like we were in New York, Pennsylvania. He was specialized in sewage treatment plants. So that's where I sat and watched and learned everything I could about electrical, carpentry, and everything like that. I figured if I sat and watched, I could learn.
cool.
So.
Now, tidbit, ladies and gentlemen, the Dalys owned a farm on Beach Daly along the way. So it's the local history. It's just kind of fun. Now, what famous local celebrity worked for you, Tom?
Well, this lady was known as my day wife. Everybody thought we were married because we acted like a married couple. But Janie Annie the Clown was my employee, and she was with me for a number of years. I mean, I think it was 12 years we were together. And she went through clown school, and then after a while she decided that's what she wanted to do. But yeah, my day wife.
Yeah.
We had a good time.
Janie Annie was just a delightful person. She used to blow up balloons for kids. We've had them in the Morley Area Residents Association parties along the way.
Yeah, she did some parties.
Yeah. Famous customers. Who have you had as a famous customer along the way?
Famous customer. Well, Martha Ford comes and sees me. You know, it's really funny. She called up one day, or the fellow that works at the house, and said, Mrs. Ford wants to come by and see you. She has some framing to do, and we just want to make an appointment. I said, oh, fine. Bring Martha Ford in. So we came in, and she'd bring things, and we'd sit there and talk. And I said, how would you like it? She would start telling me, and she says, oh, you know what to do. Just do it for me, you know. And so we would go on to a lot of other things, like, you know, we got in a conversation that I liked auto racing, and she says, did you ever go to the Indianapolis 500? I says, at that time, I said, yeah, I've been going for probably almost 30 years, every year. And she says, wow, she says, you know, I used to go to that race. I go, you did? She goes, yeah, my dad used to take me there for qualifications. And she says, you know, I met the first winner, Ray Haroon, from the Indianapolis 500. I go, wow, how did she do this? And then finally it dawned on me, well, she was a Firestone. Her father took her to the track. She knew everything about auto racing. And every year she would come in, we'd talk about the race. It would just, here's a lady in her 80s, and we're talking about watching the Indianapolis 500. So it's a lot of fun. And I today do things for her. She doesn't come in as much, but we're always doing personal things for the Ford family. And then we had a couple of the Lions football players. Just this last year we had Jeffrey Okuda, and we've done like all his jerseys when he was picked #1 draft pick, and then we did some shoes that he had that he couldn't wear. He was hurt, but he had these shoes for some charitable game that they did, which is kind of interesting, kind of different.
Oh, it's fun. Absolutely.
Yeah.
What's the best advertising?
Word of mouth.
Word of mouth. Yeah.
And if you do a job and do it right, they're going to tell other people. And we've been doing word of mouth for a long time. I mean, most of my clients are not just from Dearborn; they're from all over. Grosse Pointe, Farmington Hills, Ann Arbor, Monroe. I mean, I get people coming from all over just to see me. You know, and they catch us on the website or off of Google or something like that. But yeah, word of mouth is the best.
Now, what are some of the pros and cons of being a small business owner?
Sometimes it's the economy. I mean, we've been pretty fortunate. When we first started, my first month in business, I grossed 85 cents after everything was paid for. I thought I'm making money. And it, time went on. The more I learned, the more people came in. Our first location was right here on Monroe Street. We had a lot of people from Ford because they were going to Kernan's across the street, and it was busy around here. And then we just started developing. I was going out before work. I would go downtown. I'd hit commercial buildings, ask them if they needed custom framing. Take my catalogs, and say, if you guys are interested in pictures, I'd be glad to come down and show you. And that just kept developing. And finally, we would get calls, hey, we need, Call America called me and says, we need 14 floors of conference rooms that need to be done. What can you do for us? So that was a very large job,
Sure.
And then from then on, we just started, collecting other clients. We do Carhartt, we do Campbell & Company. I worked for Masco Corporation for years when they did a lot of artwork. We did all their offices. So those were all the real good times in the 80s and everything. And then 90s, and then the bottom fell out. I went from 4 employees down to myself. And so that was hard times, And a couple times I thought, I may give this thing up. I started borrowing money against the business just to keep it going because I wanted to see it work. And it did. It came back. And finally, then my daughter came in. And so we're making it work now.
And the advantages of being a small business owner?
Well, you're your own boss.
Okay.
I mean,
Have
only people I have to answer to is my customers.
Yeah. Have you ever thought of firing yourself?
Probably a couple times.
Yeah, right.
Especially if I do something wrong, go home.
Now, one year the Lions were having a particularly bad season.
Oh, yes.
And
yes.
I think they lost every game, or
Yeah,
they lost
yeah.
every one but 2.
Yeah. Very embarrassing moment for me because Mrs. Ford decided she was coming in. And at that time, we were doing the Stray Cat Strut, and I did actually the Detroit Lions, and no, I did the Detroit Tiger, and we had him in the store, and then we also had the artist that did the Lion one, and it was in the store. So Mrs. Ford was coming in. I'm not thinking, the Lions are having such a bad season. Everybody's coming in, they're disgusted. So I took a plastic bag and I put it over the Lion's head. Not thinking. And Mrs. Ford comes in and we're talking, and I'm thinking, oh my God, she's going to see this. She's going to hate me forever. And we went through, did our business and everything. She gets up. She decides to walk out. She stops at the door and she turns around and she says, I really like that, Tom. I really do. That's great. And I go, I'm really sorry. She says, no, we're really bad.
It's kind of refreshing to hear that the owner even knows that that's the deal here.
Yeah.
Now, Tom, tell us about some of the unusual things that people have framed.
Oh, jeez. Everything's a challenge. I've always told people that, whatever it is, bring it in. I want to frame it. Large pieces like quilts and things like that where you have to deal with everything by hand, folding them and getting them into like a plexi box or something like that. We just framed a kimono for a lady that she had to put away for like 60 years. Her husband brought from the war. And she says, I really like to look at it. So we just framed that, and it really came out nice.
And what do people typically have you frame?
Mostly art, mostly pictures.
Okay.
And we do a lot of, like fabric pieces, like we'll do needle points and things like that. Or we do a lot of memorabilia, like somebody will bring in maybe a photographs and things, little found objects and things that they want to remember. We'll do that. We do a lot of jersey framing, a lot of sports framing. But just about anything. I mean, you name it, I've probably framed it. I think one of the worst things I ever framed was 250 keychains from Italy. And I had no idea what I was going to do with them. She brought them in and laid them on the counter. She says, I want these framed. I go, oh, okay. It was the only job I ever regretted. I says, I don't know what I'm going to do with this thing. So I ended up buying a map of Italy, and I put them all over the map.
Okay.
It was probably the ugliest thing I ever did in my whole life. So that would be the worst thing I ever did.
Yeah. Now, I'm assuming because you're still in business that customers are pretty happy. Do they ever express that, or?
Oh yeah, many times we get people calling up and thanking us. I mean, it feels good when you do something for somebody and they really enjoy it. Some people maybe never say anything, but we do get people calling up and say, hey, you did a great job on this. He says, I'm coming back. And that's another thing. You repeat customers, we must have done something right.
Sure. Yeah. Yeah.
I've always had a certain theory about framing something that when you walk in and see a framed object on the wall, you should look at the artwork first. Then the mat, then the frame. It should all work from the inside out. Your frame should make that piece of artwork really stand out. And that's all what I've always tried to do.
Have you ever had any ugly things that people want to have framed?
Ugly things.
Like even ugly art?
Well, a lot of ugly art out there. I mean, there's some things that, I will do the best I can on it and really represent it. But I'm going, I wouldn't put this in my house. But yeah, there's ugly things.
Now, where do you get your wood from?
Okay, most of the framing material nowadays either comes from Europe, like Italy, Spain, and the Pyrenees, and it's shipped in. We also send a lot of lumber over to Asia, different places there where they mill it. They put the finishes on it, and then they turn around and send it back. And that's one of the big problems we're having right now, because since of COVID, there's a lot of materials that are sitting out in the ocean waiting to come in because they can't get into port. And we're finally, at this date, starting to feel the back orders and everything that we were getting the stuff before, but now we can't get it. And it's hard to try to explain to your customers, I'm sorry, but it's not coming in.
Sure.
So, and it's going to take time. So that's one problem we're having now. Other than that, people ask how the COVID things did for us. Well, we increased business. We lost all our commercial accounts, but we doubled up on our residential. And
now, why do you think that's true?
Well, everybody's at home.
Yeah, you got it. Yeah.
They're all at home and they go, well, we should do something in
Yeah.
here. Let's do this. Instead of bringing one piece of Tom, let's take all four of them.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's interesting. We did very well during COVID. We were down 2.5 months, and then we were back to work.
Now, compare today with the days when you first got into the business.
When we first got into business, I mean, there wasn't that much product that we could use that was on the market at that time. The availability of frames and things like that. I mean, all the materials have grown over the years. We have much a better selection now to offer our customers on framing things. Yeah, it's grown just like anything else has grown.
And how has the internet had an impact on you?
Internet, we used to carry a lot of the poster catalogs where people come in, sit down, pick posters, for their homes or for offices, and then we'd order them and frame them. Now, the internet, in that phase, it's cheaper for them to go on the internet and buy a poster and bring it into us to frame because they pay about the same price I would. Other things, people buy a lot of things framed online. Once they get them, they find out it's not the same as going in, working with us, touching and feeling, and really seeing the real product. The stuff they see online, they think it's nice until they get it. And many people have brought things in after they bought them online, and we've redone them.
Okay.
Because they just found out being cheap is not quality.
Yeah. So. Ladies and gentlemen, we have with us today Tom Clark, local businessman. He is a great human being, and I think an artist as well. But Tom, what's the most expensive thing you've ever dealt with? Or most valuable, I should say.
Most valuable thing would be, we framed some Picassos for, we had a client that's...
Ladies and gentlemen, excuse me. Listen to this guy. We framed Picassos. I'm not worthy to be in the same room as a Picasso.
Yeah, I had a client. I never know what his name was. He sent a runner in, a man that worked for him. He would bring in, well, let's start this again. The man that would send the things in had a grandmother that was friends of Picasso. And he gave her a sketchbook, one of his sketchbooks. And so he ended up with it. And whenever somebody would get married, he would rip a sketch out and give it to the courier and bring it over to me. We'd measure it all out, get it all ready. The courier would take it back. We'd get everything ready, and he would bring it back and we'd frame it. And some of the Picassos, the one was about $500,000 or $600,000, one was $1 million. And we did a piece about this big, a Raphael, on like tissue paper, and it was a $600,000 piece. So, and you treat it just like anything else. You
You didn't spill coffee on that, I hope.
No, we make sure we don't spill coffee. I mean, I've done a lot of different things, but those were fun. And like I say, you treat it just like a regular poster. I mean, you can't be real delicate with it. It's something will probably happen. You just do it. It's a job.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Now, how about the oldest? The Raphael might have been the oldest.
That's probably the oldest that I've ever done.
Okay.
Yeah. Picasso's old, but Raphael's a hell of a lot older.
Sure. Yeah.
And like I say, it was so tiny. It was just, and touching it, like I say, it was just like, it was finer than tissue paper. To get it to where I had to put it in a frame just for it to stay in, it was really difficult to get it to stay. Okay. But once it was in, it was in.
Yeah.
Never heard anything back.
Yeah. So. Very good. Now you've belonged to various organizations along the way. Tell us about that.
Okay. Well, in college, I belonged to the interior design, the ASID group for interior designers through college. After get out of school, I mean.
How about civic or the
civic city or something like chamber? I was
right.
a board member on the chamber for quite a while. Then, right now, I'm on the Downtown Development Authority for West Dearborn. I have been on the board for the animal shelter, which was kind of fun. But you got to get involved some way.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Now, Tom, as you get closer to my age, and my age doesn't change at all.
No, mine doesn't either.
Tell us what you want people to say about you after you've gone to the next life.
The next life. I always think about the next life. What is it going to be like? But I don't know. Hopefully they'll think I was a pretty friendly guy, and I run a excellent business, and I made them happy from what I did. They'll remember me for years when they look on the wall and see what I framed for them. I just want to be remembered by being a good businessman, I guess.
Very good.
Yeah.
Very good.
So, yeah.
Ladies and gentlemen, you have had before you Tom Clark, local businessman, a great person. If you enjoyed this show, tell all your friends and relatives. If you didn't enjoy it, keep it to yourself. Thank you for joining us.